Hi everyone, welcome to
Mimosa Talks. Today we're talking about how to recognize healthy relationships. My name is Erika Neri.
Hi, my name is Sammy.
And my name is Lola.
So when you grow up in a family in which we observe and experience healthy relationships that can facilitate recognizing those traits. But what about if we were not exposed to healthy relationships? That will also have an impact in our future romantic relationships, which we will talk more in depth. Maybe we can think that now with easier access to informational outlets that can open our eyes and help us improve the relationship, we could be able to recognize those signs. So let me tell you, ladies, that according to Surbringen and researchers in 2011, self and partner objectification in romantic relationships, association with media consumption, and relationship satisfaction. He mentioned media can help us shape what we believe is acceptable and sexually appealing, making us believe that the success we have with our partner depends on media expectations. I think that's why it would be important to be more selective of what we bring in our life, like who we add in social media, which movies we watch, what we share with others, especially our family members and our partner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think a lot of people try to find partners that are more in line with what other people expect from them instead of being self-aware of what you really need and what you really want. I don't know if you ladies remember yesterday in class, she was talking about her brother who had dated a bunch, and then he brought home somebody he really cared about, and he had to make like excuses for how her body looked. And that was like, that's so telling of thinking you're choosing a partner for you. No one cares what your partner looks like, how they sound like. It's up to you to decide. And I think everybody would feel much better if they just went with what they really want.
No, I agree. I think that people are always trying to please, or there's like a script, like a social script, and often like an imaginary checklist that people have. And a lot of the times it's like, attractive, financially stable, like all these things that you think you want. But sometimes it just, they can look great on paper, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work and that they're going to fit into your life and that you're going to fit into their life. So it is important to kind of question what you want and need out of a partner and what you're looking for.
I don't know if it happens to you ladies, but sometimes I'm looking through social media and I follow people that I admire. And sometimes I look at them and I'm like, they accomplished this at this certain age. They look a certain way. If they did it, why I cannot do it? But then I stop myself and I think, what is their journey? What is their parenting styles? What is her experience? And then I think, I can compare myself to people because we are completely different. So that would be unfair for me for me to judge others like that. So it's impossible to just accomplish those expectations and just reflect myself on other people.
Yeah, in social media, you're seeing just captured pictures, just one moment that's very curated. But sometimes if you even look at the dates in between pictures, it can be months or sometimes even years in between postings. So in that time, it could have been maybe the worst time of their life or maybe the best time of their life, but you don't know because all you're seeing is that one moment. It's almost like getting pieces of a person, but you're basing a whole life off of just that one piece of that moment.
I think that's one of the main thing where we are so bombarded by all these images in social media and television, and we're told what we're supposed to want to buy and what we're supposed to want to look like. Especially like for women, we get really bombarded with like, oh, your hair is supposed to look like this and your body is supposed to look like this, and now you have to have perfect skin, and that actually I think robs us from kind of figuring ourselves out and being more self-aware of what do I want to look like? What do I want my hair to look like outside of the norms of the world? And that I think is a big one, the self-awareness and the know yourself in order to find a healthy partner. Because if you don't know yourself, then you're misrepresenting who you are, and then you're not going to find somebody that is going to meet you because you're not actually showing up.
Yeah, there was a study done by Joanne Davila and other researchers. The title was called Romantic Competence, Healthy Relationship Functioning and Well-Being in Emerging Adults. And the study was done in 2017. They were talking about emerging adulthood, and typically that being like teenagers and kids in their early 20s, or I should say adults in their early 20s, and how at that age there's a high rate of relationship involvement, lots of sex, cohabitation, basically just figuring out what relationships are and kind of moving out from that teenage era into the more adult era where you're now building ties with people. But similarly to what you were saying, Lola, there is a lot of constant information about what's new, what's trending, and that kind of also plays into relationships as well. These researchers talked about three main components for healthy romantic competence. They talked about insight, mutuality, and emotional regulation. And I believe these are three important key factors that we should individually try to develop within ourselves. The insight to know who you are, what you want, where you're going, and where you want to go. And then also mutuality, being able to respect your opinion and being able to respect another person's opinion in moments of heated argument. And lastly, emotional regulation, because we need to be able to emotionally regulate ourselves when we are experiencing challenges.
That ties into mindfulness, which is good as a whole to better your life. In this article by Sean Barnes, The Role of Mindfulness in Romantic Relationship Satisfaction and Responses to Relationship Stress, which was published in 2007. They just define mindfulness as an open or receptive attention to an awareness of what is taking place both internally and externally in the present. And I think that goes into the emotion regulation. And it is crucial when you go into the world and in any relationship, and it doesn't even have to be romantic, to be able to emotionally regulate yourself and be very aware of what is happening, because otherwise you can't communicate with somebody else. Just like, it's just basic communication 101. But like, I've noticed too, in the same realm of like people trying to figure out who they are, but not doing that so much, but following what the social media says. I noticed like in TV shows I was watching, like Friends, and it was like, oh no, she has this trait, and oh, that's total like deal breaker. Like, I'm gonna go back to my article with the deal breakers. And it's another thing that you need to know. What do you accept in a relationship? What is your thing? And that I'm just taking from the article from the psychologist Jonason, Relationship Deal Breakers, Traits People Avoid in Potential Mate, which was published in 2015. And they just show that people have different deal breakers, and people need to remember that when you want to go out and find a long-term serious relationship that's healthy, you need to be very clear on who you are, what you need, what are the things you won't accept, what are your deal breakers, and be very mindful of also being open and receptive to the person, because nobody's going to have everything you want or need.
I think it's also nice to check in with yourself constantly. I mean, we check in with ourselves every day about like, oh, how's my skin looking? Do I have a new zit? Oh my gosh, my hair is dirty. You know, we check in with ourselves so often about certain physical features, but emotionally it is also important to check in with, okay, maybe I set that standard or that goal for myself months ago where I said I'm looking for a partner with A, B, C, but is it still in line with who I want to be? Do I still value these things? Am I still searching for that person that values these things? Or am I now looking for someone who values it a little bit differently? Because I think we're often stuck in the binary, the black and white, and there's a lot of nuances. So it's okay to also contradict ourselves and maybe what we once believed, because we're constantly evolving, or at least we should be.
You just mentioned that sometimes we think in the past that we are in a relationship that is healthy, or we think that a relationship that we experience or we observe is healthy. But it's important to just not only look in your daily life, but also in your past relationships and in your childhood, like what was healthy for you. And is it just question what you really think, like is it really healthy? Is it also bringing some substance to my life right now? Is it helping my actual relationship? And how is it helping me? What is the role that I'm taking in my actual relationship at the moment? And how am I gonna progress with my partner at the moment? So
I was gonna say the growth is really important, because like you said, sometimes you think you want something and then you change and your needs change, and also each relationship that you have teaches you something, so you get to a new level of your life. And I think it's important to, I think sometimes knowing what you don't want is the most important part, because sometimes it's hard to know what you want. And if you say exactly, okay, this is what I want, you're closing yourself to potential partners that could be exactly what you actually need. And so it's important to know what you don't want and what you won't accept, and then go from there and be open and receptive.
This does not have to do necessarily with like relationships and finding healthy relationships, but my older sister, she's 10 years older than me. She grew up when my mom was kind of struggling with her mental health, and so my mom constantly was eating out. We were always eating like McDonald's, Carl's Jr., just eating out. And so my older sister now, she has 2 daughters and she's 36. But she loves cooking at home. She really values cooking at home. She values all of these things. And it's because she ate out a lot as a kid. So frankly, she's kind of tired of eating out. But it went from one extreme of eating out every night to now making dinner every night at home. And she's really trying to foster a healthy relationship with food and eating at home with her family. But I've noticed that it does sometimes, if you go from one extreme to the other, she is quite obsessed with like her tummy. So my sister, she went from one extreme of eating out every night to making food at home every day. But now she's kind of she's hyper-focused on remaining slim. She's hyper-focused on her body remaining slim, and her she calls it her flabby tummy kind of remaining like skinny. And she constantly says things that are, like, oh, I ate too much, or oh, I'm such a fat ass, or things like that, And so she says this in front of 2 young girls. And so the other night, my niece and I, we were just in my room, and she was showing me that she could do the splits. And so I told her, oh, I can't do the splits. That's amazing. And she said, oh, I think you could do it. I said, no, I don't stretch that much. And then she said, oh, my mom works out, or she tries to. And then she started talking about her mom's flabby tummy. So I tried to talk to her about bodies being different, and there being a wide variety of bodies, the same way that there's feet sizes and all these different things. So it is interesting, because if we do kind of go from one extreme to the other, whether that's in a single thought or even in partners, we might just kind of go from one extreme to the other, when in reality there's so much that we can actually benefit from in the middle.
And I think it's important what you just did. You educated your niece to recognize a healthy behavior. And also, when you recognize a healthy behavior, you can recognize it in your partner as well and in yourself. So whenever you stop something like that, or you change it, or you give it a different perspective, you can open someone's eyes and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe she just says this because of this. And it's not necessarily that is that important, or you should focus so much on that aspect of your appearance.
That goes back to mindfulness too. It's being mindful of what you're saying. Like, she's not really realizing what she's saying. Because the mom, I have a little girl, I'm very careful, and I talk about the pressure of the media and the pressure to look a certain way. She's actually gone almost like the opposite, where it's like, I'll never wear makeup, I'll never dye my hair. And I'm like, whatever, you don't have to go into extreme. You can do it, but as long as your mind, if you do things with self-awareness and in a healthy way. Like, I love working out, and I'm not working out because I'm desperately trying to lose weight. I've done that. I'm working out because it makes me feel better. So that's the difference. And that's where, with partners, why are you looking for a partner? Is it a healthy reason to begin with? There's a lot of people that can't be alone, and so they're constantly in a couple. That's not healthy. you're not with somebody not to be alone. You're with somebody to share and to grow together. So, yeah.
Also, sometimes we think, oh, I need time with myself to work on myself and know what I like and enjoy my solitude. But we need to understand that just being alone is not going to teach you how to be in relationships or have healthy relationships. Sometimes you need to actually learn and just experience with other partners and be around other people. So you can actually know if you're ready or know the characteristics of another person that you enjoy and you want.
There was a spiritual teacher, his name is slipping my mind right now, but he would constantly say that he would go away to the mountains or he would go away to retreats and he would, be really at peace and zen with himself and super just like, he felt that he was like just on top of everything. Like he felt superior. And then he would come home thinking that he was a super enlightened person and he would interact with his family. And his family would immediately remind him that he was not as spiritually grown as he thought he was. And I think it's the same with partners. You think that, you've done all this work and that you're healed and that you're perfect. And, you're like, I'm ready to date. And then when you start dating someone, they're like a mirror. They're going to reflect all the things that necessarily you haven't worked on or that you thought you worked on, but you haven't really quite accomplished. And so they're going to challenge you, but it should be to better yourself.
Going back a little bit about what you were mentioning, Lola, about parenting and encouraging your children to have healthy behaviors and being more careful about what you mention around them. In this article made by Colen and researchers in 2019 called Psychological Morbidity, Social Intimacy, Physical Symptomatology, and Lifestyle in adult children of divorced parents. They concluded that children of divorced parents who have a more positive perception of the parental relationship show more healthy behaviors. And also parents that even if they getting divorced during that process, they communicate to their kids what is going on, what are healthy behaviors. They show when they're older less levels of anxiety and depression, especially in females between age 14 and 18. They're the ones that show more of these signs, and males, they show more problems or issues with school. So that's important to take in consideration. It's like a pattern that has been going on, and whatever we do with our kids, that is going to reflect in their future relationships, and that is going to influence of how much work they have to do in themselves to have actually successful relationships. The same childhood kids have and the same work they have to put in is the same thing they have to do when they get older. That's why we need to be so careful what we say, where we expose our kids, and what experiences they have. Because, at the end, we all have to work in our trauma, because either way, we're going to have trauma. But the way we navigate and we try to implement good ways how to, go through our stress is going to help them how to is going to help them how to implement those techniques in their future relationships.
Yeah, I think that's very true. You teach your kids how to be, like, basically, it's not like you said, you're not healed and that's it, you're done. That's not how it works. Your whole life, you're going to grow, you're going to face traumas or difficulties you have that are psychological in nature, and you're going to have to overcome them. You're going to have to analyze them, overcome them, whether it's with the help of a therapist or journaling or whatever. But it's the gracefulness, the amount of courage, because it is a hard thing to do, and how to face your fears and go for it. That's why you teach by example, by just doing it, like you were saying.
Yes, you were mentioning that the healing goes through our life, and our body changes, and our way of thinking changes, and our experiences changes. The people we're around is different. So obviously the healing process is going to change. and we need to learn how to adapt with our way of thinking, and so we can just have better romantic relationships and just relationships overall.
Yeah. I mean, you can change your mindset, especially with children. You can kind of do all the work and heal and you know, all these great things. But ultimately, a lot of these traits that we're trying to heal, they've been in us for so long, so they're naturally going to kind of rise to the surface again, and it's going to be up to us to kind of handle them. And if you're maybe battling with something having to do with body shame or body dysmorphia, and you find yourself constantly talking about, you know, negatively to your body around your children, it might come up. It might come up one time, or, you know, but it's ideal to just kind of address it with your children and address it with yourself, and just kind of, you're not ever going to be fully healed, but it's okay to constantly have to work on something, and it's okay to be patient with yourself and patient with others about what you're working on, because it's going to be a lifelong process.
And new things always come out, right?
New things, yeah. They come up in different shapes and forms, and you think it healed, and then it like turned into this other monster, and it popped up differently, and you're just like, oh my God, I thought you were gone.
Yeah, I think it's also the way you do the work, and then if you find yourself in a healthy relationship, that also keeps going, and it's a thing that you do with your partner. You can help them. You'll recognize it on the way you feel.
You know what it is?
Tell
It
me.
comes with age.
It comes with age, you
It
think?
definitely
But I
comes
feel
with
like-
age.
I feel like I was doing that since I was like 18, 19. Yeah, so I'm just curious, because it's like for a lot of people, it's like the whole kind of go looking into your past. It doesn't work for everybody, like you're saying. Like maybe sex differences, it's just not going to work so well. So I'm wondering, is there a way that people can just, you know, easily in their data life that doesn't cause a lot of mental strain to kind of do the work? But I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, maybe this is very American of me, is how do I do the work but do it easy? And how do I do the work but do it fast? So sometimes it's not that easy or not that fast, but maybe simply like observing the relationships around you and seeing like things that you like in people. It's almost like Build-A-Bear, but like build your person. And I think I've kind of done that in my own life, where it's like you're seeing all these different relationships, and you're seeing what you love and you don't love in certain people, and you're like, if I want a partner, this is what I would want to see in them, and this is what I would want them to be like. I would want them to, you know, go out and seek the job that they love, be happy, have friends, confide in people, love art, love nature. Like, I want them to have all these traits, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's how they're going to love me, but I want them to love their life fully. But then I also have to think about who do I want to be? Like, how, because we put so many expectations on lovers and people, but you also have to consider, who do I want to be in a relationship? How do I want to show up? How do I want to honor the relationship? What am I going to do?
Yeah, and sometimes we reflect in our partner. Like, we want to get on our partner or get all the qualities in our partner that we want for ourselves. So that just tells you your answer. Like, you need to build yourself with all those qualities, strengthen them, and then maybe you will be that person that is going to teach someone, your partner, something, and maybe you will spark something, and then you guys can start something new. But putting so much pressure on someone to have this and that and this and that is very it's not only high expectations, it's impossible. No one has everything, because we don't have everything, so it will be very unfair of us to ask for everything.
I used to want to know all the past from my partners, and now I realize that I don't care as much. Of course it's going to come up, because everybody shares a story here and there, but it's no longer like something that I want to sit down and ask. It's something that I let happen organically, because what I'm more interested in is who they are right now, and that's what I want to know. I want the person to be open and show me who they are, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, because I want to be able to show that. I know they're not going to be perfect, and I want to be there so that they grow and they become the best version of themselves. So I need to understand what that is, and then I want them to understand what my perfect. But for that to happen, you have to be really self-aware. You have to know yourself, and you have to know where you want to go, because in the past I have lost myself in relationship where I was really clear, this is what I want, and then you meet somebody, and then it's like you kind of merge with that person. And I think that's where it becomes a little dangerous. It's like you're not merging with somebody, you're sharing, and you both are sharing everything, and you help each other through traumas, through growth, through hang-ups you may have to help you grow professionally and everything. But all this is more it's more about being really open and vulnerable. I think the work is mostly you being completely clear with who you are. I think that's the real thing. And then when you meet someone who's as open as you are, then you'll recognize what it is, and you can share, and you can start sharing things, and love, sex, but also ideas and all that, and that's where it becomes a nice relationship.
I can understand where you're coming from, Sammy. Like you're saying, I want to learn from my partner, what happened in his past that make him be this way. And I feel like whenever you're curious about something like that, it's important to also be direct. And if you're curious about a specific aspect, be direct. Like, oh, do you know why? Like, is it hard for you to communicate? Maybe they will not answer you with that direct answer, but maybe they can tell you, like, this happened in my life, and maybe that can be. So, and that had helped me in the past. Like, whenever I have conversations with my partner, and for example, someone tells me, yeah, like, I didn't grow up with my mom. Then I always was afraid that she was never going to come back. Oh, this person has some fear of abandonment. So it makes sense that whenever I leave the room, he feels that I'm not going to come back. Makes sense. So I see that sometimes those little clues, they help to connect two and two kind of thing. But those things just come through time. And I think the most important thing is who you are at the moment. If this person is showing you that he wants to change and wants to grow, and every time you tell him, like, hey, I don't like this about you, you see some improvement, then it's okay. There's no need to dig in, because maybe he already healed it and that's in the past. So what for,
Doing the work, I think therapy, I'm always going to push that because I waited way too long to do it myself. But therapy is a good way to know yourself and to deal with the childhood trauma, because it's easy to get stuck in that place too. I think the other thing that I would recommend is, date around. Sammy, you were saying that earlier, I think, or mentioning it. But dating is a really great way to see what's out there and what you like and what you don't like. You do have to try food to see what you like. It's kind of the same thing.
I second that. Date around. I really enjoyed just writing myself a letter of how I wanted my life to be, who I envisioned myself being, and almost like building myself from the inside out. As far as like what I'm wearing, how like my day-to-day looks, how my house would look, and who like my friends are, who my partners are, maybe even the city that I live in. It's just for fun, just for like imagining the type of life you want to live. But it does help to kind of steer you in the direction of where you want to go, rather than just kind of taking life take you anywhere.
You're manifesting. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be, you build this image and then you create it, and that's awesome. I've never done a letter to myself. I've done lists.
I also think that to recognize healthy relationships, we need to analyze how our partners or our new people we're meeting, how they react in stressful situations, like on fights, on conflicts. What are their reactions? And that will tell us if they're actually healthy relationships or people that we want around us, and how are they going to add up in our present.
Yeah, it's super important, conflict, and not try to avoid it, because actually it is important to grow with a partner and to get to know them. Doesn't have to be screaming fights, but it is important to know how to fight properly, to grow and to get to know each other. Sometimes things come out that way.
Yeah, and to remember that you're not necessarily fighting each other, but you're fighting a certain issue, and you're with each other fighting that issue. So that's helpful as well, to kind of keep on the same page, not necessarily going at each other's throats.
look at it as a learning experience. So every time there's conflict, be like, okay, like I'm not gonna take this negative. It's more like, okay, how can I grow with my partner about this, and what can we learn together? So that will be our second step, that we can just accomplish something new. Thank you so much for joining. I love hearing about your experiences. I mean, just being so vulnerable and opening about what you think, what you have experienced, your definitions of all the concepts you think about what is love, what is being in a healthy relationship, in a bad relationship. It's just very insightful, and just like it just makes me see different perspectives.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, for having this conversation and for being here. I know this is a school project, but I have gotten so much value and joy out of being here every week discussing these topics with you. And shout out to you, Michaela and Stacy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love talking to you ladies and get to know you more too. It's kind of fun. We are sharing a lot of personal stuff. It's also interesting to me because, again, we each have like a 10-year gap. And yeah, you ladies have it together, I have to say.